I first met Sam at one of our national events, one of the growth events, probably about 2.5 years ago. Sam is the Vice President of U.S. Growth here at eXp Realty. He's a sort of Chris Baer's counterpart, works directly with Dave Kennard on a day-to-day basis on the growth team. Tell us your story, please.
Sure. Real estate took me to Palm Springs, kept me into that market because it was brick and mortar, right? I couldn't go anywhere else. And I started in the industry, fell into it by accident, started at Remax. Again, I tell people not by choice. It was just kind of, I had an invitation to get into the business, had no idea what I was doing. I was 23, didn't know anything about real estate. Started from the bottom, answered phones at first, and then worked in every department, from escrow to many other different divisions of the brokerage. Found out what I liked, found out what I really didn't like. What I did find out is that I loved the business and I loved the people. So I gravitated more toward the realtor side of it. Spent about 1.5 years with Remax, ended up over with a luxury boutique, spent 7 years with them, got my license with them, and really got my first start in attraction. So I think, this might be kind of along the same lines, Lisa, to maybe answer your question. Like some of you, I didn't even know anything about real estate. You guys know about real estate. And my first attraction position, broker who was kind of I'd call him a part-time broker, because he lived in San Diego. He would drive over maybe 1 or 2 days a week and be with us in the desert there. And so when they offered me the position to be a recruiter, just the same way as I fell into the business, I said, sure, I'll try that. I don't know anything about it. I'll give that a shot. And previous to that, I had been a supervisor. I had 40 people underneath me at a company where we made tools for serious craftsmen. So I knew about leadership, right, and sports at a young age too. But this was new, right? It was hiring, which I was hiring for the other position before real estate, and I didn't know what to do. So what I did was, I was really bad. I like to share the story because my first phone calls. This is how bad I was, Tom. I would call you up and say, hey, Tom, Sam Rodrigues, XYZ Real Estate. I'd love to talk to you about, our brokerage. And you would probably say,
I'm not interested.
I'm not interested. I'm happy where I'm at, right?
Happy where I am.
And I would literally go, oh, okay, thanks. And that's I kid you not, that was my script. How bad, right? And not on purpose. Talking about confidence, I didn't know what I was doing. I did that for, I think, 2 days when I realized this isn't going to work.
It's not working.
So I did what, you heard Chris, you heard Tracy talking about scripts. I actually went back to the drawing board. I wrote my own scripts. I had no formal training. So for the first 7 years of my career, I wasn't formally trained. So I wrote my scripts, and then I started calling. What I found was, hey, Tom, Sam Rodrigues, XYZ Real Estate. The reason for my call today is calling to congratulate you.
Oh, wow. Oh, thank you. What did I do?
Exactly, right? And now all of a sudden, I caught him off guard. He's not going to say, is this a recruiting call, and hang up on me. Now he's going, oh, wow, somebody's calling to pat me on the back. And I found that worked. And so it was my lead in to get the guard down, right? So it was at that point, it became the beginning of a relationship build. And that's why, as a high I myself too, I was all about building the relationship. Well, now all of a sudden I was getting appointments. Now all of a sudden people are joining the company. But I share this part of the story before I fast forward to getting to where we're at today, because it was the beginning of a successful attraction career for me. At that time, even though I was bringing them in, I wasn't seeing any money yet. And I'll never forget this day. It was October of 2003. I was in Hawaii. We were on vacation. We had no money. We couldn't do all the things we wanted to do. And I remember flying back home. And on the day we arrived back home, my first attraction or override check showed up. And they've never stopped showing up since. So I share that because it's time on task over time. It is putting forth the effort, the consistency, like Chris is talking about. But it's also the persistency. I think it's both. They go hand in hand. And so fast forward, 7 years with that independent luxury boutique, ended up at Coldwell Banker, spent a couple of years with Coldwell Banker. This is the market that we all try to forget. Market was still tanking, 2008, 2009. And I was the last recruiter in the country left for Coldwell Banker. And so ended up opening a luxury boutique with another broker. We built that to top 5 in the market in the first 18 months, 160 agents. So again, attraction was my thing. I was generally bringing 50 to 60, top agents, minimum 3 to 4 million, 5 million. And because a lot of these companies only, that was their business model. So it forced me to really go after the production. And And timing had it. I ended up over at Keller Williams. I don't want to make this a long story. I ended up at KW. That's when I took my attraction to a whole other level. They did teach me. I was formally coached at that point. So not only I had two coaches. I had a recruiting coach and then I had a business coach. My recruiting coach, who had recruited I think 3,000 agents in his lifetime, he became a big key for me in my attraction efforts. And it was scripts, but what he realized, that it wasn't about reading the script per se, so in this case, I'm going to go a little bit off of what Tracy said, because my coach would actually, every Thursday morning at 8 a.m., I had to show up, be ready with my list of my calls, ready to dial. And he was on the computer in front of me, watching me and listening to me on my phone calls. And so from 8 to 9, every Thursday morning, that was like face-to-face accountability, right? So he was coaching me along the way, say this, say that. Well, at first, the scripts, he was realizing they weren't working great for me because I was reading word for word. He said, "You're not a scripts guy." He says, but the key in this is that I was internalizing them. So I was using parts of it. I wasn't going word for word, but if you internalize your scripts, you get to control the conversation. So I'm competitive. There was another team leader at the time who was, I think she got 8 appointments in 1 hour. I said, I'm going to beat that then. So I did. I was, setting 8 to 9 appointments in an hour every single week, just in that 1 hour session. So if you prepare, I think that's the other key to this. Prepare, just like Tracy said, she would write out her script for each call. Yeah, talk about even more preparedness. Be prepared. Know who you're going to call. Think about that outcome. Have a goal and track your numbers. I think that was also a key time for me too. I would keep a tracking sheet on my desk. I had the scripts, I had my calendar, and I had my tracking sheet. And every time I picked up that phone, a little chicken scratch. There's one dial. Every dial, right? And the reason I did that for a year. I wanted to know how much time do I need to spend to get to hit my goals. So by making that little chicken scratch, every dial, every attempted contact, every time I actually did speak to somebody or have a conversation, I kept another log, right? It was another chicken scratch. Every appointment held for the week. So now I was able to come up with my attraction ratio as well. So I knew that if I dialed 50 people a day, I would probably talk to 20 to 25 people. Out of those 20 to 25, I was probably going to set anywhere between 8 to 10 appointments. So that was me doing 2 hours a day. That was literally it. I was 2 hours a day attraction. And then I would spend a separate time. This is what my coach also taught me. I was spending separate time in the follow-up, right? The fortunes in the follow-up. But if you mix them, you start to mix up your attraction effort and you're going back and forth, right? Stick with one. And that became another part that became very valuable to me. So now I'm going from 50, 60 hires a year to, averaging 94 a year at KW. In the Outfront magazine of theirs every quarter. It didn't matter because profit share wasn't real dollars, right? It didn't show up in the bank account. My name in a magazine didn't equate to dollars in the bank. At that point now, as you can imagine, I'm tired of building up other people's companies. So I leave. Me and another buddy of mine decided to go independent. We both said, let's quit building up other people's companies and making them a fortune. Let's do this for ourselves. This is around 2015. I'll never forget the moment I see Gene Frederick post his announcement that he left KW and went to eXp Realty, and I'm looking at it going, what the heck is eXp Realty? I Google it real fast, and I see it's a tiny little tech company out of Bellingham, Washington, and I go, big deal. I don't know what Gene's up to. He must be retired, and I don't know what he's doing. I didn't contact him. I should have. Fast forward about 18 months again, now we've launched our own company, and we found out about eXp. The rest became history at that point. And, so coming up on my 4-year anniversary with eXp, it's been the best 4 years of my entire career. And, we are definitely having a blast. So, maybe Tom, I'll let you kind of turn it over to you.
That was awesome, man. I took a whole full page of notes right there while you were talking, brother. I love it. That's some good stuff. Questions for Sam. Who's got questions for Sam?
Hey, this is George Cole. I got a question for you. I've got fortunate that I have a pretty big network of real estate agents around the country that I've been working with. I'm wondering, do you find one brokerage which is easier, Remax, KW, C21, Coldwell Banker? And what I'm kind of envisioning is a chart that shows like check marks. Like, do you get this with Coldwell Banker? Do you get in, eXp is checked all the way across? Just as like a quick visual. Do you guys have any tools like that you've broken down to compare eXp to each other brokerage?
It's a great question. We used to have a brokerage comparison, kind of like a calculator. I know that we are working on bringing back some more of these tools. So stay tuned. I think 2021, now we've got some great people in marketing as well to work closely with, some new changes on the tech side, on enterprise, and be able to bring more tools. So the answer right now is I don't have anything. The company doesn't have a resource provided. There might be something already out there. And I think with a collaborative effort, it's pretty easy to put some of these things together. But to answer your question, there are some brokerages. In fact, that was one of the things I wanted to talk about. We brought on so far year to date close to 102 brokerages that have joined in 2020. A lot of them are independents. There are some franchise. The ones that are kind of easy to pick up are the 2 to 20, 25 agent brokerage independent, because they're not tied to no franchise agreement. It's easier to move 2 to 20 agents, much easier to do that. And so there's been a lot of those. I would tend to say that Remax franchise owners are, they're jumping ship quickly, very, very quickly and quite often. So there's probably been at least a handful of Remax franchises that have moved over this year. Century 21, we're starting to see a lot of activity happening on that front. Remax and KW agents, I think, tend to get our model quicker. As far as a franchise or a broker owner, KW owners, it's a different agreement than it is with Remax, right? And that's probably one of the reasons why we see more of that happen. On a weekly occasion, we do, there are some KW operating principals, owners of the franchise, that are taking a look. They're just trying to figure out, like I got one right now. Actually, I think Gene and I both. Gene has one in Southern California, a few hundred agents. I've got another one in Southern California, 200 agents. And, they want to commit. They just need to figure out how to get out of their agreement. And unfortunately, that's on them. They have to figure that part out on their own.
Sam, when does this team, when does eXp Attractors give you and Chris a call? You give us the etiquette. I'm not going to call you and say, hey, Sam, I just met a guy at a grocery store. Will you show him the program?
Great question. When we were smaller, we could help more with those conversations, right? In fact, when I first joined, I was doing that. We were doing some follow up. Now, unfortunately, we don't have the bandwidth. So lean on your sponsors, lean on your organization here to help with some of those calls. I say bring us in. Really, there's not one specific time. When you need help, just reach out. We do spend majority of our time with teams, and it could be a team of 2, it could be a team of 40. Broker owners, again, could be a brokerage of a couple agents, could be a brokerage of 900 agents. Definitely with those, and bring us into the conversations too with some of your influencers, right? Or potential influencers, top individuals. There are some agents that I meet with, one agent, and they're doing 25 to 50 million or so, even on their own, right? As one individual. It helps us to be able to do a couple things. We want to make sure that's as seamless a transition as possible, right? I'm a big believer that it's the agent experience. It starts at the early discussions. It keeps going through pre-onboarding, and it goes all the way through. I think the most important first 30 days at the company are very important. So when we can ensure a seamless transition, and again, don't feel like you're bothering anybody either. If you've got 2 agents, 2 agent team, and they're 5, 10 million, whatever. We usually kind of have our personal cutoff just because we can't handle every conversation. Probably around 5 million in production and up. You're not bothering us, and we also understand that in a lot of markets, a $5 million producer is a really great agent. It also gives us the visibility to maybe be able to do an eXp life story on them and their transition. So there's numerous reasons why that visibility is important to us. Same thing with your pipeline. We have a pipeline. It helps our brokerage ops team, right? Stacy and team are also very thankful if we can give them kind of a heads up. If we see all of a sudden, a brokerage of a few hundred agents pop up, and if we're not, we don't have the support in place yet to be able to either onboard or to support a group like that, then it provides us the ability to start preparing.
All right, any other questions, guys?
I have a question. First of all, thank you. It's such an awesome call today. I want to could you please share a little bit more in terms of the follow-up, Sam? How do you do that? Yeah, you separate the two.
Yeah, I started to separate the two just because again it was more of a mindset thing. As you know, it's hard to switch, right? To go from, oh, let me call this person and just check in, and then over here, oh, let me call this person and make an attraction call. I think if you're always focused in one area, same thing with your sales business, right? You got your lead gen time, you got your follow up time, your appointment time. So I think for me, and maybe this is more on the technical side first. I learned the power of time blocking, and I knew that then I started to teach a lot of classes because it took my business to a whole new level. I color coded a Gmail calendar. I would print it out every single week. And so remember I mentioned earlier, I had my scripts on one side, I had my chicken scratch paper over here for tracking, and then I had my calendar in front of me. As big as I was, and then the text, and obviously using everything on your iPhone or something, my written schedule in front of me was helpful because it was color coded. Green meant money making activities, and those green, if that time slot was empty, right, it was green but no name written in there, I would use a red pen, and if there was no name written in there, I knew that at a glance I can go, hey Tom, what works better for you, tomorrow at 10 or tomorrow at 10 or Monday at 2. I knew at a glance, instead of doing, you guys have all done this one, right? We've all done it. Hey, hold on one second. Let me pull my phone away from my ear. I'm gonna put you on speaker and let me try to figure out, or you're saying what works better for you, and now they're controlling it. I control my own calendar. I don't want them controlling it. So maybe that's the first place to start was, I knew my money making activities were most important, and I knew nothing else would get in the way of that. So I knew my appointment schedule ability or opportunities. I knew that nothing could block or get in the way of my lead gen, nor my lead follow-up. So as far as like ways to lead follow-up, here right now we've got there's so many articles, so many things written about eXp. I do personally, I even do screenshots on Facebook. Chris is no longer there, so I guess I'll use up some of that time on Facebook.
Absolutely, go man.
And I see the great stories, right? I mean, Tom, you see them.
Yep.
Agents saying, I'm saving $1,000 a month in healthcare. It's agents saying, I've got $36,000 in stock equities that I had no idea even existed, right? First time I checked my account. It's agents that are earning the 100%, they're hitting cap. They're becoming icons. I mean, there's so many great things to kind of share. And I do I might screenshot these. I might not use it immediately, but I keep a folder in my phone, in my photos, eXp. That way, when I'm talking to somebody, I know that if something is something relatable, I can go pop over there and either send it to them or speak to it, right? I can say, hey, I saw agent in North Carolina saving $1,100 a month in healthcare. Agent in San Diego saving $900 a month. And I'll call them out, right? I'm a big storyteller, and I drop our eXp agents' names all the time. So relatable stories. Yesterday I sent out as follow-up, because I've got some that are hot on the trail right now. And so yesterday I sent out the eXp life story that it's about the Swan Poll Trends report, right? We had a huge mention in there. So now that's third party validation. It's not just me saying, oh, eXp is this. Now I'm going, hey, thought you might, and I sent a very quick short text that just said, hey, thought you might enjoy this short read. And I just sent over the link, and people are like, thanks, I'll take a look at it. But again, it's some of them are going to read it. I think everybody's going to read it, whether or not they respond. Again, it's like you're like a drip campaign in that example. It's not an automated one, but sending valid information, market of the moment information. A lot of people are talking about the stock. I took the opportunity to share. This was one of my follow-ups. Well, first I started with, she was one of my top agents when I was independent right before eXp. She didn't follow me over. She's about a $15 to $20 million producer, very, very, very good agent, 35 to 50 transactions a year. I took the liberty of running the equity. Actually, she would have been an icon agent, right? If she would have joined 4 years ago with me, she would have been an icon agent the past 3 years. So I took the liberty of running those calculations, and I called her up and I said, this is, just one, thought you might want to have some interest in knowing, some of this information. And we set up a meeting. We went through the numbers. She was blown away. And between the 5% equity purchase program and between the Icon Award, You guys ready for this? This is when the stock was around $40 a share. Not recruiting, not doing anything different. It was $727,000 in equity that she would have built just by being here and not doing anything.
Just by being here, not even recruiting.
Not even recruiting, and she's a very influential person.
Exactly.
So I knew she would have. I didn't even include any of that.
Yeah.
Well, you know what her response was? She said, "Well, I'm too late." Right? So, she still didn't make the move over. So she said, I'm too late. And so again, what do you think I do now? So yesterday I sent over another, I sent her that article. I also sent her kind of a snapshot. I said, those numbers that I ran from you before, which were around $40 a share, and you thought you were too late. I said, well, now we're at, 70, 66, 68, whatever the number was that I sent her so she wasn't too late. I just want to, again, I'm just dripping. When it's the right time, it's the right time. And Tracy mentioned earlier, when they call you, and I love these calls, I had one of my best friends is at KW, and he called up a couple weeks ago and he says, now don't get excited, right? That's the beginning of them saying, okay, I'm slowly starting to get, more interested, and I'm getting closer. So don't get excited, but, can you send me this? Can you send me that? What does this look like if my team is over here? So just, again, consistency and persistency wins the game.
That's terrific, Sam. Well, thank you very much for your time. You're a man of your word. You showed up, and I love it. And